Hey TPT sellers, and welcome back to the Teachers Boost channel. I've been having some thoughts recently about TPT as a marketplace and whether or not there is a better place for me to sell my products. So, don't get me wrong, I'm super content with TPT and I love that the traffic is so high and so specific. It takes away a lot of stress when it comes to marketing and finding my target audience. But I do still wonder, am I missing out on something? Is there a different marketplace that I should be investing some time into? So that brings us to the topic for today, which is TPT alternatives. I've done a lot of research this week and I've summarized it into a table for us to go through. Let's go ahead and start with TPT as a baseline. So we have two subscription types. First is the basic seller with a one-time fee of $29, which is pretty low considering that you only pay it once, but it has a very high commission rate of 45%, which means that TPT keeps almost half of your earnings. Plus, you pay an extra 30 cents for every resource that you sell. So in my opinion, this subscription is just not worth it, even if you have a super small store. I would rather dive straight in with the premium subscription, which has a yearly fee of $59.95, but a much lower commission rate of 20%, meaning that you take home 80% of your sales. Also, you only pay 15 cents per resource if the order is below $3. So again, even if your store is small, the premium plan seems to be a necessary investment to maximize your profits, especially in the long run. Okay, let's jump to the next competitor, which is Made by Teachers Marketplace. This platform has a pretty similar subscription model to TPT. The basic seller plan has a one-time fee of $29.99, but again, a very high commission rate of 45%. The biggest difference here is that there are no extra costs, unlike on TPT. The premium seller plan has an annual fee of $49, which is slightly lower than TPT, and it matches the commission rate of TPT with 20%. Again, no extra costs, which is fantastic. But if you keep watching, I'm going to break down one more huge factor that sets this platform apart from TPT. Next up is Boom Learning, which is a very interesting platform, specifically for interactive resources and digital-only resources. And they are present on TPT quite a lot. I see Boom cards popping up more and more every day. It has a pretty high annual fee of $69.99 for the publisher account, which is your license to essentially create and sell the Boom cards. But luckily, there is a low commission rate, so you'll lose 15% if your product is purchased directly from their platform, but that commission drops to 10% if it is purchased externally, for example, through TPT. It is pretty important to consider then that if you sell your Boom cards on TPT, you will be losing commission from both platforms. So that's just something to think about, I guess. Then we have TES or TES resources with a free sign up, which is fantastic. They have a pretty unique commission model that ranges from 20% to 40%, and it's based off of your annual sales. It's best to just read more about this on their website, but essentially their model says that the more you sell, the less commission you would have to pay, or the less money you would lose on your sale. The only extra cost they have is 20 cents per resource under $3, which is fine. I guess you can just make sure that your resources are priced at higher than $3. Then we have Classful, which is another interesting one. It has a free subscription with only 5% commission and no extra fees, which just seems too good to be true, really. But right after this, I'm going to dive into the biggest catch about some of these platforms. Some of them seem to be a really great option just looking at these numbers, but we'll look at a bit more data that may change your mind. Last but not least is Etsy. So Etsy has a free standard plan, and that means that you just don't have access to their advanced tools and features. They do have a fixed transaction fee of 6.5%, as well as some other additional costs, which you can see here. And I would say that Etsy is the only platform listed here which has a wide target audience beyond educators. So, although it's a very good option for certain types of educational resources like posters or planners, I don't necessarily think it's the first place that teachers would be looking to buy their teaching material. So, just by looking at the information that we have right now, some of these alternatives are looking pretty good. We obviously have TPT Premium, but we also have Made by Teachers Premium, Boom Learning, TES Resources, Classful, and Etsy. There is one catch. So I dug into some of the traffic data for these platforms, and it completely changed my opinion. In the beginning, I was looking at all of these options thinking that they all seemed ideal, but the numbers that I found were pretty interesting. So starting with TPT, which has a massive search volume of approximately 4.5 million globally and 3 million in the USA. That's just crazy to think about. I mean, that means that monthly there are more than 4 million searches for the terms Teachers Pay Teachers or TPT or other related keywords to this platform. Now, comparing that to one of the main alternatives that we found, which was Made by Teachers, Made by Teachers has a global search volume of less than 10,000 and less than 5,000 for the United States. So now we can start seeing the big differences between these platforms, which initially seemed pretty similar based off of their fees and commission. Next, we have Boom Learning, which brings in quite a lot of traffic between 100,000 and 500,000. That's not too bad, especially because you do not need to rely on the Boom Learning platform alone. As we mentioned, you are able to sell your resources externally. So if you choose to sell your Boom cards on TPT as well, then you have a combined search volume from Boom Learning and from TPT. We also have TES Resources or TES Resources with a pretty high global volume, which is good. However, the search volume for the USA is quite low. And after some reading, I realized that this platform's target market is mostly UK based, which explains this number. Classful was another platform that seemed ideal with no subscription fee and a super low commission. However, we can see that the traffic is pretty low overall, with less than 20,000 globally and less than 10,000 in the United States. I guess it's important to remember that TPT has been around way longer than some of these platforms. So that's not to say that the search volume won't eventually catch up to TPTs in the future. That's just something to bear in mind. Lastly, we have Etsy with a massive search volume of 10 million or more than 10 million globally and more than 8 million for the United States. Even though this traffic is super high, it's pretty difficult to tell how many of these searches are coming from teachers or educators. My gut feeling is that this is not an ideal way to reach my target audience easily, but I've also seen many success stories from other teacher authors that have been using Etsy. So yeah, I'm not too sure on that one. Now, taking all of this into account, my final picks would be TPT Premium, Boom Learning, TES Resources, and Classful. Even with TPT's paid subscription, the fact that it attracts the largest audience of educators makes it my primary platform choice. Then I would probably pick Boom Learning as my secondary platform, only for creating interactive and self-grading resources. And after looking at the numbers, I'm considering using TES resources too, because it's a pretty low risk option. However, because the traffic is much lower than TPT, I would use it as an additional platform rather than my primary platform. And then the last one that I added was Classful. I also see it as a very low risk option with no subscription fee and a very low commission rate. So I just thought I don't really have anything to lose here by publishing my resources and seeing how it goes. Who knows, maybe this platform will grow like TPT has grown over the years, and then my resources will have a lot more exposure. So these would just be my personal top picks based off of data alone. There's obviously plenty of other factors to consider when looking at alternatives to TPT, like payout methods, rules and regulations, I guess overall ease of using the platform. But off data alone, this is kind of how I would look at using the other platforms. Thanks for joining me today. I really hope that you learned something new. And if you have any other platform suggestions, please feel free to comment them below. I'd love to hear from you and I'd love to experiment with some other platforms as well. And yeah, good luck for the rest of the week. I will be back next week with a new video for TPT sellers. Bye.